Welcome to Keep Going, a podcast about failure and success, hosted by John Biggs. Every week, we talk to an amazing person about a time they failed and what they learned. And remember, when you're going through hell, keep going.
Welcome back to Keep Going, a podcast about success and failure. I'm John Biggs. Today on the show, we have Bobby Mascia. He's an author, and he's also the founder of Green Ridge Wealth Planning and the Mascia Capital Group. Welcome, Bobby.
Hey, John, how are you? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
So I was interested in you. You basically wrote a book called Unchained, which is the raw truth about entrepreneurship, family business. Leadership, is there a comma in there?
Family business and life balance.
All right. So you recently wrote a book called Unchained. It's the raw truth about entrepreneurship, family business, and life balance. And I think one of the things that we focus on here is life balance, which is one thing that entrepreneurs don't have, and is what's actively hurting a lot of them. So why don't you talk a little bit about what you wrote?
Yeah. So my background of what I've been through over the past 27 years in life led me to read this book, and it was really one pivotal moment. And it was after my father had died, and I had to buy the businesses for my mother. Start a family office while I was still running the business that I had founded 10 years prior. For the first year of going through what I had gone through, I had just a moment, one of those light bulb moments where I was like, my story can help a lot of people. And I can either continue to help just the clients that I'm bringing on into Green Ridge Wealth Planning, or I can expand my reach and really make a difference. So that's when I wrote the book. And, it really talks about, and I'm sure you have some people here, whether or not they're in a family business, or they're thinking about their kids and potentially incorporating their kids into the business, or they're not even sure, but they may or may not, right? I came out of Wall Street and got into the one place that I never wanted to be. At the time, my father was franchising Dunkin' Donuts and Baskin Robbins, had about 20 locations. And 9/11 happened. That was the first domino. I was going back for my MBA and CFA, and at the same time working full time down on Wall Street, and a little stressed out. And my parents could see it on my face, especially since after that happened, it wasn't like work from home today, right? We didn't have the opportunity to jump on a Zoom call and be productive with shared drives and everything in the cloud. There was no cloud, so it was a really weird dynamic. Fast forward, my mother went in for open heart surgery. Fast forward even further, my father went in for open heart surgery. I'm a big family guy. I'm an Irish-Italian guy from New Jersey. So when my family needed me, it was something that had been always ingrained in me. Family first, like family first. So my dad had said, hey, listen, I need you to come in. It's going to be great. And I said, I don't know if it's going to be great, but I'll come in and I'll help. And over the 9 years, we grew it from 20 to 40 locations. But the same reason I didn't want to be in the business was the same reason that brought me out. But I learned a lot in that time. Number one, hindsight being 2020, I learned that sometimes life throws you weird curveballs that you think are taking you completely off path, when in reality, it's just giving you that next set of experiences to set you up for success later on. And I think you talk about failures a lot, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's been my general mindset on failures. But there's a lot of weird dynamics that happen inside family businesses, and my aunts and uncles were involved. So there was some posturing of, oh, here comes the proverbial son coming in to take over the business, or think he's taking over the business. There were some histories with other family members that had left the business, fractured the business. So, there were some scars that were developed. My dad was very old school, patriarchal, my rules, and these are my rules. Except I'm going to change my rules whenever I want to change my rules, and then follow those rules. So after I had my second son, my father's mentality also was, doesn't matter about how smart you work. If you're not putting in the hours, you're not working hard enough. And that grit, that grit is something that you need to get things going. And Angela Duckworth says, one of the number one determinant of whether or not somebody's going to be successful, grit. But what I've learned over the years is that grit needs to get refocused from on your business when you're working in your business, from when you're working and building something, to on your business. And we didn't do a lot of that. And that was frustrating. So when I left and I started my own firm, I actually got back into finance on the other side, cut my teeth, got my designations, decided that I wanted no conflicts. I wanted to give real advice. And I found myself opening up this firm with nothing, right? Coming out of the family business, it wasn't like I came with a whole bunch of money. I was, for all intents and purposes, I was partially an indentured servant.
Okay.
My buddies that graduated college that were on Wall Street or off Wall Street, they were all making 3 or 4x what I was making. And here I was with a son and a newborn son. And my wife said to me, you look miserable and I love you. And I don't care if we have to sell the house and we have to move into a condo. You need to do you. And this is not you. And my wife's smarter than me. I mean, she went to Washington University of St. Louis. She worked at McKinsey. She's, definitely the brains in the family, bigger brains in the family. I shouldn't say the brains. She's just bigger brains. And that impacted me a lot. So, like I said, I founded this business, started from nothing, and had to really establish a foundation by creating new networks and talking to new people, because all the people who were in my networks already were like, what are you, crazy? You're leaving your family business to go and start this? You'll be back. There's no way you can walk away from something like that. And I was like, no, I got a chip on my shoulder. Like most people who are successful, that chip is not going away. I gotta keep going. And my father and I did not speak for the first year that I left. Same room, don't say a word to each other. Sees his grandkids, don't say a word to each other. And that was hard. But what ended up happening was when I started to get rid of the resentment that I had toward my experiences, and I started focusing on my business and growing my business. Dad had brothers and sisters in the business, nieces and nephews that he was responsible for. Everybody he looked at, he was like, I have to take care of these people. Mm-hmm. Now, all of a sudden, the son that left his business is super successful, expanded on his house, starts buying nice cars. He's like, what are you doing? So I think that when he realized that I started to become successful on my own right, it changed the conversation. And when you say about the successes and the failures, we've kind of worked through some things that he was doing, and it was short-lived because he ended up passing. And then there's a whole story that I go into in my book of what we've done, what we've been through, and the conversations and the lessons learned and all that fun stuff.
So this is an interesting story, because this comes from a different place than most entrepreneurs. I mean, you basically had a business that was there waiting for you, right? It's the proverbial mom and pop shop, and they wanted you to sit behind the counter and sell the donuts or whatever. And you jumped out. What is your advice for folks who are in that situation where they are kind of like making a lot less because it's a bunch of dry cleaners, or it's a family restaurant that is constantly on the teetering on the edge? As an Irish Italian, and you said you have a family, you have how do you basically break it to the folks that you don't want to, I don't know, fry schnitzel all day?
So John, what's interesting, and maybe I'm overgeneralizing, but it seems that the people who are most trying to figure themselves out become therapists. The people who maybe have an illness become experts in a specific field of medicine. People tend to look in at what they have experienced or need, and tend to go and find the resolution and become experts in it, so to speak. Not always. As I said this was an overgeneralization. I think I planted that seed. But I left my family business. I started working with entrepreneurs, and 2 of the designations that I got was succession planning and certified family business specialist. And I've really done a lot of work and additional schooling and education, and to really understand what is a healthy way to manage a family business, whether or not you're the upcoming generation or the outgoing generation, or the operational generation to an incoming generation. There's a skill and there's an art and there's a set of really important tools that you can incorporate. I think one of the biggest things that will answer your question, though, is my belief is there's 2 really important things to a successful relationship. Number 1 is communication. Number 2 is transparency. And when I look back at my experience in my family business, communication and transparency were broken. I had forged my own expectations of what I thought I was going to get out of being in this family business. Mm-hmm. My dad had his own expectations. My aunts and uncles had their own expectations. Those expectations were never communicated. There was no clear and transparent road for me to meet those expectations because we didn't even share what they are. I just thought that eventually I was going to take it over. He thought that eventually he might retire. And when he believed that I was ready to take on more, he would give more. But that's not a plan. That's not even a sketch of a plan.
Exactly.
So the more and more everybody starts to have these expectations, self-expectations or believed expectations, time goes by, like concrete, it gets harder and harder and harder until it just becomes something that you're not going to mold and change. It's unbreakable. And I think that's where a lot of the problems lie. So number one, we never had a conversation that didn't conflate every role that we had as people. So I give you for instance, right? You and I are brothers. You're the CEO of the firm. I'm the marketing guy. And I say to you, John, I got this great idea. This is what we need to do. I think it's going to be fantastic for the business. We should plow ahead. I got a team ready to go, and I'm excited. This is going to be fantastic. And you say, Bobby, listen, that's really not in direct alignment with where we are as a business. I don't know if that's the best idea. What do you mean it's not the best idea, John? John, we're 50-50 partners. I don't care if you believe that this is the best idea. I have a voice at the table. This is something that I want to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bobby, I hear you, but I don't know if it's in direct alignment with what we're trying to do as a company. And regardless of 50-50 partners, like who's making these decisions? You know, John, this is the same crap that you did to me when we were kids. You tried to play the older brother card and you're holding me down and I've got these great ideas and you never take me seriously. Right there, we didn't establish is the conversation between CEO and CMO.
CMO, yeah.
Is the conversation between 50-50 equity partners? Is the conversation older brother to younger brother?
Yeah, and you're holding them down and smacking them in the head or whatever, right? So it's kind of like interesting.
And we conflated all three of those roles. Whereas we may have had a better conversation if we said, hey, John, I got this great idea. And you say, okay, are you coming to me as big brother, little brother? Like, are we chatting this out as though we were sitting and having a beer? Are you talking to me like I'm CEO and I'm the one who's going to make the ultimate decision and you're going to pitch it to me as CMO? Or are we having this conversation as 50-50 partner? And I say, you know what? I want to pitch it to you. We're having this as CEO, CMO. Okay, great. Let's go. The minute I start talking about 50-50 partners or equity, or the minute I start talking about brotherhood is the minute that we have to the other person has to clearly say, hey, listen, hold on. That's a different conversation. We're not wearing those hats right now. Let's have this conversation to where we're playing our roles accordingly. If it needs to change into a different conversation, we can change it at a different conversation at another time. But right now, this is the conversation we decided to have. So let's have it. And it's amazing how just creating some boundaries establishes a real pathway to success in communicating and being transparent.
I mean, that seems like that's generally useful tactic, right? We're CMO, CEO. Maybe we started the startup together. And we're always going to be in that 50-50. Maybe we didn't take baths together as kids, but we did deal with that stuff. I think there's the one question, the one point that you had was like sort of like this idea of disappointment, right? And this happens a lot when it comes to high achieving folks. Maybe mom wanted you to be a lawyer or a doctor, and you did a STEM teaching service or something like that. You decided to build something instead. How do you route around that issue where first off you feel bad because you're disappointing dad in your case to a degree, and then how do you sort of retrain somebody who isn't ready for your entrepreneurial ideas?
And that's the format of, well, what does the relationship look like and what does everybody want out of the relationship? Because I think that most of the time people want a good relationship with their kids, they want a good relationship with their parents, they want a successful outcome. They want to see what is best for each party. And being in alignment, sometimes not being alignment, you can be aligned on not being in alignment. So you can say, okay, this isn't the path for you. There's another path for you. And that's okay. Now, what do we do? Choose your own adventure. But if you can't be in alignment that's okay first and foremost, well, then there's a whole therapy session that we would need to have to go through in order to understand where that stems from and how we might be able to change some of the perspectives in the room.
And how do you get cranky old dad to go to therapy, or is that even doable?
So what's interesting in the space right now is that we have two tides that are ready to crash. In 2030, every baby boomer is going to be over the age of 65, right? Typical retirement age, 65 is one of those moments in life where we've identified that that's an important age, directly related to retirement. The second thing is AI is set to reach singularity. So these two things colliding at the same time. And I don't know about you, but I know when the iPhone came out in 2005, my mother still does not know how to use an iPhone. She's had one for the better part of a decade. She still fumbles with How do I do these things? Not because she's not smart, not because she's not capable. She's just not interested because it's not part of what she grew up around. There are a lot of older people who if it's not something that they've relied upon, or if they look to the future and go like, hey, you know what? I'm too old. I'm not going to become an expert in this. It's not going to change my life. I don't have this high level of interest. They're not going to engage and initiate with technology. So what's going to happen? Right now, 20% of businesses that go up for sale actually make it to the closing table. 80% failure. Most because of lack of preparedness for sale, because they aren't transferable. They're too owner reliant, or the owner just wants too much they think their business is worth more than it really is, and they're not willing to part with it. So you look at look at AI coming in. If you're not going to be adapting AI, how much more are you going to get your lunch eaten with the value of your business being taken advantage of? I think most people, when they get to the age and they have to start thinking about the future, and they're staring down the barrel of all of these statistics that are really failure statistics of people putting the right things in place and planning and preparing. It's not because you can't run a business. It's because you don't know what you don't know. And that's something that you typically want to educate yourself on, but you're too busy running your business. When dad realizes that there's an opportunity for his business to lose value, to not be transferable or sellable, losing money, not fulfilling his obligation as a family. Like, there's certain people feel like there's something that they identify in there with their business and what it does for their family that has to resonate with them to be ready to make change.
Interesting. Going back to the AI thing, it sounds like, well, first off, you're in wealth management, right? So at this point, to a degree, you could be replaced by AI who's going to tell you to do X, Y, and Z, but it's not really there yet. Lawyers are kind of in trouble. Is there any benefit to doing what your dad did and buying a bunch of Dunkin' Donuts franchises? Or is there any benefit to opening a food truck in a world of AI, especially if you're a quote unquote white collar worker or a knowledge worker?
I think you have to really think about what your belief system is around AI in your industry. And the one thing that I would encourage you to not do is put your head under a rock and hope that everything is going to be okay. Now, is AI going to replace everything that you do? Probably not, right? There's a human element. There's two human elements at play. Number one is people need community. They need to be around people. They need to talk things through. That's number one. Number two is we as humans have a certain speed in which we are capable to evolve. We cannot go from where we are today to a completely automated society where everyone's going to live in harmony. Money's not going to exist. Everybody's going to have free time because the robots are doing everything for us. And we're going to be okay with that. So there's going to be an evolutionary phase. And I think that doing a real deep dive, and whether or not that's a little self-introspection and trying to think about what it is that your business is and what your purpose is out there in life, what it is that you love to do and how you want to change the world, but also talking to other people that are in your space or in different spaces that are complementary to you and getting a pulse is going to be huge. And if you're purely just looking at like, what is it that I need to do that's going to be AI proof? I don't think we're going to be AI proof, but whenever you're talking, touching, and people need that dynamic, you're probably going to be in a safer space than most. So for instance, you own a wealth management firm. Now we do customized portfolio management. Can that be taken over by AI at some point? Yeah, that's not really where we hold the biggest value. We do a really good job. We don't shortcut it, but our value is our ability to really understand our clients and help them navigate through some of the really difficult moments where there are these interpersonal or big decisions or challenges that they have to overcome that just inputting into AI isn't going to give them the answer. And where our value prop really is in that planning. So, I told you about Unchained. I wrote the book and it became something that was a little bit cathartic, but also something that I wanted to put out there to the world. In that process, in my process of working with a number of entrepreneurs and business owners as clients and going back and doing all of my other education, I like to say I eat my own food. We do a really good job. I have 5 businesses. Now, the wealth management takes about 80% of my time, but the reason I have those 5 businesses is when I took over my dad's business, at that time, I had created a business that had become almost self-managing. The financial planning firm really only needed about 20% of my time It didn't need the 100%. So I could redivert some of my energy in the short term of a year and a half to get that all squared away before I refocus my energy back to running my business. There are skills that I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I don't claim to be, but I've been around a lot of people who are smarter than I am, more successful than I am. And I've started to gather a lot of that information, and I've been using that information for years that has ultimately led to my success. I package that into a thing called Exit Ready Institute for the firm. Exit Ready Institute is for somebody who's focused on improving the operations, making themselves self-managed, and being ready for exit, whether or not it's in 12 months or 12 years. And that I'm using AI to help me to get that to the right population of business owners. But business owners still want that community effect. They still want to be in the cohort talking to the 14 other business owners that are going through similar issues. They want to go through what we've created from a plan, from a education planning perspective, and they want to ask their questions and have somebody work things through with them that isn't a robot on the other side. I don't think we've gotten there to where we feel this fulfilling relationship through robot interaction or AI interaction the same way that we do with people.
Okay, I like that answer because that's, like a sort of a cynical person would be say like open a funeral home, but what you say is open something that where you do have to talk to people, where as a lawyer, the real trick is to get people sitting in front of you and answering their questions. And the AI can do all kinds of things, like do all your documentation, but to like make somebody who's in the middle of grief understand estate planning is pretty important.
Yeah, John, I went through I think this, this is an important part of it is I went through this class. I took, it's heroic public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
It's Michael and Amy Port, they're former actors, and he started doing some public speaking. And then all of a sudden people started coming up to him being like, can you show me what it is that you do for public speaking? Because you're amazing at it. And really, it's a performative art. There are people who go up and they do public speaking and they just talk. And then there are people who go up and they do public speaking and they perform. So I found that to be fascinating. And I took that class, and it was a performance class of how to really talk to people where they're engaged in what it is that you have to say, and they're captivated and you're getting your message across. So I came back and I was like, my kids need to learn how to do this. And I started to think about things a little bit differently from the AI perspective, in the sense of like, what are people really going to value and need? And if you think about some of the hard skills you have to know. Even though AI is going to do it, you have to know it, because you have to know whether or not AI is wrong, hallucinating, miscalculating, whatever the case is. If you can't logically think through issue spotting and identifying where there might be an issue, you're going to be at a disadvantage. But also the things that, from a cultural and a sophistication perspective, the arts, the ideas behind the sciences, the communication skills, I think those are going to be much more valuable than they were. So like a sociology class was always like, sociology, I guess I need 3 more credits. Let me just take that. I think sociology is going to be more of, let me get a little bit deeper into that so I can understand how people think, so I can bring that human element in a way that hasn't been brought before in my industry or, whatever business I have.
I like that. I like that a lot. So I want people to look for you. So they can find you at bobbymasha.com?
Yeah. I'm all over social media. I've got Business Unchained podcast. My book's on Amazon. If I get into your feed, you may never get rid of me.
All right. So don't follow him anywhere.
No, I'm just kidding.
Just read the book. Business Unchained is the podcast, which just looks really cool. And anything else? Are you working on anything new books?
No, the book writing process was really interesting. It took me about 18 months to put it together. I always wondered, I don't know if there's other people who thought like, I want to write a book. Like I should write a book, or what is writing a book going to do for my business? I always thought about it, but I never had anything that really compelled me to go pen to paper. Everything that I started to go pen to paper with, I'm like, how many freaking books do we need? Like the same stupid messages, like the same bullshit. Like, sorry, I didn't.
It's all right. So this isn't NPR.
Who needs more of this? But when I had that story of my life story, the memoir that had a lot of business advice baked in, and I felt like I was helping somebody, I was compelled to do it. So I think unless there's something that's going to compel me pen to paper again, I probably won't do it. But right now it's really this Exit Ready Institute. I'm super pumped about it. And I think that we could change a lot of business owners' lives in 12 months of just getting the basic foundational components together. And then ultimately, and it's like anything else. Like, we're going to try to make you more wealthy so that this way you can actually go into our wealth management practice. So I think that, from a direct alignment, like, am I engaging in something that's a bag of goods and I'm not going to get what I want at the end? Well, that just hurts us. Like, we're looking to make you more money. We're looking to get you more wealthy so that this way you can come.
So you can manage it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think from a self-serving perspective or a mutual serving perspective, it's exciting for me, and I think that a lot of people are going to benefit from it. And I'm excited.
All right. Well, Bobby, thank you for this. This has been amazing insight because I've literally never talked to anybody like you on here. Everybody else is just building something like whole cloth, and you had something that you had to take care of, and you succeeded after it, which is really great.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. That's you made my day. That was awesome. Thank you.
Oh wow, yeah. Nobody says nice things to anybody anymore. So there you go. There's your nice thing for the day. This has been Keep Going. I'm John Biggs. We will see you next week. Thank you for listening to Keep Going, a podcast about success and failure. Remember, Keep Going is entirely listener supported. If you're listening to this, please head over to keepgoingpod.com, where you can subscribe to the podcast for as little as $5 a month. This is a labor of love, and every little bit helps. Thanks for listening.
For 27 months, I wouldn't have known.